Hey guys, welcome and thanks for tuning into my channel. Today's video is pretty straightforward. I'm going to be showing you how to whittle the classic wood carving project, the ball in a cage. I don't want to spend too much time chit-chatting, so let's just hop right into it. Let's get started. I've already made my initial pencil lines, so the next thing to do is lightly chisel from the outside in, starting at the lines of the cage. After every pass, rotate your block and start on the next face until only a sliver remains. This is the most time-consuming part of this process, so if you got a nice podcast you've been meaning to catch up on, now would be a good time. Or, if you're like me, you could listen to nothing at all and let your thoughts wash over you in this near silence like waves against the shore, with the illusion only broken by the sound of wood being shorn away from its block. Watch the carvings fall to the ground and remember. That's what I love about whittling. There's nothing quite like the sound of wood scraping against metal and sloughing up its block as you ruminate on every trauma of your life and how you've gotten here. Well, ruminate's too strong of a word for what this is. It's not purposeful, doesn't have a specific direction. Just let the memories come to you, right now, and wash right over you. Nice, isn't it? Listen again to the sound of metal on wood. What a great sound. It will serve in these next moments as I whittle away at my own wooden block as the ambient soundtrack to a story only I will ever hear, played in my mind, where I'm writing the next pages of my life. In your memories, you're the subject, of course, but you're also the writer, the editor, the publisher, the sole fact-checker, and the audience. And you're all of these things, all at once. How do you feel about wielding that power? Does it make you afraid? It makes me afraid. Autonomy and sentience can be terrifying things. A few days ago, I found out that someone I used to know died in a car crash. Her name was Danielle. She was the sister of a guy I used to date back in high school. I met her a few times when I was over at his house, and she always dazzled me with the stories she had of her life. When she was only 20, she was on Jeopardy in an all-college tournament, and she completely blew away the competition. She already had her master's degree in library sciences, she worked full-time as head librarian, and she tutored on the side. As a young kid who prized intelligence and academic success over everything else, something I've definitely grown out of, I thought she was absolutely fascinating. Well, fascinating was the word I used when I was 15, yet fully aware of my own sexuality, but now I'd think I'd say I had a tiny crush. That's messed up, right? I haven't thought about her for years, and the first thing I think about after finding out she died is how I was probably a little in love with her. I think I blame myself for not finding out about her death sooner. When I broke up with that guy in high school, I chose to cut myself off from her and her entire family, who I have nothing but fond memories for. It was all for a good reason, though. I mean, I'm a lesbian and he was a sexually abusive pig, so in the long run I don't think it would have worked out between us. But anyway, where was I? I guess I'm mostly hung up on all the things I've chosen to abandon in my life. I don't have any childhood friends. I've lost contact with all of them. Most of my friendships from elementary school on were based on us bonding about being smarter and better than everyone else. And also playing a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! The trading card game, which, like everything else we did, we took way too seriously, especially for a bunch of snot-nosed kids. I dropped out of engineering school and gave away all my Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards in the yard sale a few years ago, so I doubt that I could still rekindle those friendships. I mean, the only reason I even want childhood friends present in my life is so that when I talk about the past, I have someone there to tell me what happened, and if it was real or not. I'm nothing if not an unreliable narrator. Here I am babbling about how memory in childhood is so important, but I can't even tell the difference between a memory of something that actually happened to me and a dream that I've had. The idea that memories of something real being recalled in the exact same process as recalling the memory of a dream is really neat. And it's basically a psychoanalytic goldmine, but it also makes my life a lot harder than it needs to be, especially when I'm trying to remember if something I vividly experienced actually happened or not. I have this reoccurring dream of getting stabbed by a shapeless, shadowy figure, right in the chest. The figure sneaks up on me, and as soon as I turn around, I see the knife coming right at me. I'm too paralyzed with fear to move, and as I feel the knife break the skin, I open my mouth to scream. And then I wake up screaming, which is always fun, especially if you're sharing the bed with someone else at the time. Once I've woken up and I've realized that it's a dream, I always feel a little embarrassed that I've gone and made an idiot out of myself by screaming like a crazy person, but I end up just going right back to bed after a couple seconds. It's weird that someone with consistent reoccurring violent nightmares doesn't have insomnia. Does that make me more or less well-adjusted? There's probably something to be said about the quality of my sleep, but at least I get a full 8 hours almost every night. Anyway, I think I have a pretty good idea what it feels like to be stabbed in the chest, so on the bright side, I'm ready if it ever happens. I think that I'm a pretty average person, with pretty average experiences. Well, I don't think that most people have dreams about getting stabbed, but it's not like I invented having nightmares. I guess what I'm trying to say is everything I'm talking about is pretty much just an exercise in self-indulgence, because the things that I'm remembering happen to people every day. The hardest part about coping with painful or unpleasant memories is coming to terms with the fact that most of them are actually pretty unspectacular in the grander scheme of things. You could say that they're painfully monotonous. Ugh, that was lame. I wish I hadn't said that. Let's just change the subject. I like knives. There's not a great way to say that without coming across as a sort of B horror villain or one of those high school weirdos, so I'm just going to try to breeze through it. I pretty much always have a knife on me, clipped to my hip. I tell people that it's because it's practical, and it is practical, but mostly I think I like feeling a little dangerous. Not much, just a little. Practically speaking, a knife, especially a utility knife, isn't going to be dangerous to anybody except yourself, if you're not careful, but it generates the illusion of danger, and that's good enough for me. I got in the habit of carrying a knife everywhere I go from one of my first jobs right out of high school. I worked on the line in a commercial bathroom fixtures factory, where I used a crane and pulley system to move 200-pound sink stations into boxes and then onto pallets to be shipped out to clients. I know that the pulley does almost all the work, but still, moving those giant, slab-like wash stations into boxes all by myself made me feel strong anyway. It's kind of like how when you're a kid and somebody's helping you do a pull-up, you still feel really in shape, you know? Why was I talking about that? I was talking about knives. Oh, right. The reason I had to use a knife everywhere at work is because after using the pulley system to put the sink stations into its box, you also have to pack the box with little bags and little boxes of prepackaged hardware. And then those little bags and boxes of hardware are all in larger bags and larger boxes somewhere else nearby, and they all need a utility knife to open. You know what's never nearby? A utility knife. So I got so fed up trying to look for a utility knife every single time I needed one that I just went out and got my own. That job at the factory is the best job I've ever had. I've worked there as a full-time employee every summer and occasionally over winter break since I was 18 years old. I should mention, for full transparency or whatever, that I originally got the job as a part of a program that offers priority hiring for relatives of people who are already employees at the company. I'm definitely not ever going to claim that my job isn't the direct result of a weird nepotistic HR initiative designed to pad resumes for college kids. At one point, 3 out of 4 members of my family worked at that factory. They do love to emphasize at quarterly meetings that it's a family company, but I don't know, this felt a little bit too on the nose, you know what I mean? Most people who get that job right out of college quit after a few summers because they've got an internship or a fancy post-college job, or because they just don't like being covered in dust and sweating all day, every single day. It's both a resume builder and a bizarre sort of scared straight program in that way. Almost every single one of my coworkers has told me at some point that if I don't finish school and get my degree, I'll work there for the rest of my life, just like them. But if we're being truthful, I don't think I'd mind that. I mean, that job is perfect for me. Working in the factory every day in dusty denim jeans and steel-toed boots, hands covered in dust and grease and newly formed calluses, makes me feel strong and confident in a way that I just can't explain. Nothing else has ever made me feel that way. I mean, sure, I've already developed joint pain in my elbows and knees from standing and lifting heavy boxes all day, and the dust and heat in the summer gives me almost daily bloody noses, but it would still be worth it. I'd only be a number in the system, a cog in the machine, and every product of my labor would be sold at a value greatly outpacing my hourly wage, but it would still be worth it. So, here's an uncomfortable truth that I don't like admitting to people. I like working in a factory more than I like being an artist. As an artist, there's a lot of pressure to make great things. I'd rather just be told what to make and when to make it, and just make ordinary things. That way there's no chance of screwing up. It's nice to be a machine sometimes. Following orders, not having to think as an individual is nice too. Nobody told my Marx reading group that I said that. I've got a reputation to maintain. Being put in front of a conveyor belt, given a list of parts to put into a box, and then told to do that all day is a fun way to spend the day. It's relaxing to just let time quietly and meaninglessly slip by. Kind of like whittling. I mean, look at what I'm doing here. It's nothing great or masterful, but that's okay. That's the point of whittling. The end goal is to take something that was big and great and strong and turn it into something small. And the minutes and hours of your life get shaved off like wood from a block until there's almost nothing left. So if you followed my steps in this video, you should end up with something like this. I hope you've enjoyed this very basic whittling tutorial. Let me know what you think about the video in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to send me a picture of your own ball and cage whittling project, you can take me at snailprestige on Instagram or Twitter. Bye guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.